In the next 30 minutes, former national service officials are fighting back, describing allegations of payroll fraud as malicious and a misrepresentation of circumstances accounting for disparities in the enrollment data. Tonight, this holding as a fourth state investigation is uncovering further anomalies, as the new management is also serving notice that it will proceed to withhold more names as part of a raft of measures to fish out perpetrators in this shocking 700 million cedi scandal.
I would not blink an eye to give somebody up at the national service if I know you are involved in something like that. Today, I'm still withholding some payments of certain people.
And top story, as always, is brought to you by Telecel, connecting energies and holy insecticide spray and quail. Enjoy a holy sleep. Tonight, two former senior officials at the National Service Authority have opened up about the raging controversy surrounding a 700 million cedis payroll scandal, which has attracted a lot of backlash from the general public, who are left now with their jaws wide open after the shocking details emerged on how the National Service payroll has supposedly been padded beyond imagination. Just last week, President John Mahama directed the National Service Investigations Bureau, the National Investigations Bureau, I should say, to look into the possibility of over 80,000 personnel who were not deserving but were receiving salaries from the fresh graduate scheme. Already, the National Service Authority has directed that it will be withholding the monthly allowance for some more suspected ghost names as investigations into this payroll fraud audit is deepening. Listen to the Acting Director General Felix Mfi, who's been speaking to me about what is happening beyond the initial 81,000 ghost names identified and the possibility that there's growing evidence that there are possibly additional non-existent beneficiaries on the scheme. The authority is now determining that it will uncover the full extent of the scandal and ensure only legitimate persons will receive payments. Listen.
President Mahama is leading with a different style, and then it follows from the head.
Right.
Now everybody has to come in line. I would not blink an eye to give somebody up at the national service if I know you are involved in something like that. So for a start, you dare not put a ghost in this list that we have there. I mean, although we have presented this, today I'm still withholding some payments of certain people. So this number,
even with the 91,000 we're talking about.
Yes, 98,000.
Yes, 98,000.
I'm still going to hold on with some payments tomorrow. Of course, everybody will be paid, and then in the subsequent days, other people will be paid. But we're still going to hold on certain payments to check and then make sure that.
So you're still not sure that even out of this 98,000, everyone is
majority of the people are going to be paid.
Right.
And if you are there should be no doubt at all. For example, there are issues.
They many? Are they?
Oh no! They are not a lot.
Do we know the
there
numbers?
Conflicts. There are people in conflict areas that I have to check, make sure that they haven't fled. You know what? And then all the safeguards were there. Just the people did not allow the safeguards to work.
Right.
If they had allowed the safeguards to work, we wouldn't have been here. Now we're dealing with security matters.
Okay.
I have had to tighten the security even at NSA because we have to be sure who is coming in and going out. And then I could tell you what we'll do. Now, the list will not only have to come from the universities themselves. It has to go through the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, because what we realized throughout this is that there are different numbers coming to national service and a different set of numbers going to the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission.
Right.
The universities wouldn't like to lie to GTech, but somehow they were lying to national service. But do pardon me, there's an investigation going on, which a report will be given to the president. I would not want to speak in a manner that will preempt the findings of this investigation.
Well, in the last few hours as well, the media has been digging in and revealing further details on what it is they know about this whole scandal, given the fact that the public has been interested. Two attempts were made by the Fourth Estate late last year to air what it is that they know about this scandal. That did not yield any results, given the fact that there was a legal challenge over the airing of the story. But that's out of the way now, and knowing that what we're hearing from the NSSM, possibly more names may be affected as a result of this payroll audit that is happening, in line with ensuring that they may fish out hopefully some more names beyond the 81,000 names that we're learning of. It's a good time, first of all, to hear from the Fourth Estate and what it is that they know about what's emerging now. Kweku Krobi Asante is Programs Manager for the Independent Journalism Project at the Media Foundation for West Africa, works with the Fourth Estate as well. Has been the lead on this matter ever since it came up, because this is crucial in just opposing this to what it is that the two former officials are telling us tonight. So Kweku, welcome. Isaac Kufia J is also with us. We'll dig into the emerging concerns and responses that we're getting. But quickly, let's start off with what more you know beyond the 81,000 names, and perhaps even with the 81,000 names, the details, shocking ones, of course, that we're learning of. So let's start off with the 81,000. 81,000, correct? What more do we know about the very nitty-gritties going into this numbers?
Well, thank you very much. A pleasure being here. So first, let me establish that this 81,000 figure is one that the government itself has announced. The government announced the 81,000 after the Ministry of Finance called for head count on the names in the database, the payroll of the NSA, compared to the people who are on the ground who are said to be doing their national service. And so they did their deductions. And then the government itself announced that 98,145 people are actually on the ground against 180,030 names on the payroll that were presented to be paid. Good. Now, our investigations have shown that over the years from 2018-2019 service year, we are seeing a trend of more names or numbers in the payroll that is submitted to Parliament, or the list of numbers submitted to Parliament which is being processed for payment.
You're right. The 81,000 perhaps may be an underestimation of what's actually going on.
No, that's not what I mean. I am saying that didn't come from us. In fact, if it goes by any argument, it is to say that this is government looking at the payroll as it sits in front of them. We as journalists did not have access to the payroll because this is document they say is confidential and cannot be made available to journalists. So we use publicly available records from the Parliament, parliamentary records, and then the records that they have been putting out into the media, which is where we find a lot of names we believe are ghost names. So 2018-2019 we have 49,000. The following year 2020 we have 36,000. 2021 we have 38,000, 29,000, 64,000, 59,000, following in that order. And then in the current year, government does its own head count and it says there is 81,000, far higher than the figures we have been quoting from the publicly available data that we have.
If this is the case, then you're perhaps presuming that the NIB will indeed find something if they carry out an investigation.
Eventually. I mean, this is the government, not doing the investigative work, so to say, just doing a head count from their own, from the basic numbers that's available to them, and they are finding 81,000. I strongly believe that if the NIB does its work, if the OSP whom we have petitioned does its work, they are going to uncover worse.
I'll tell you about the backlash online, because ever since the story broke, a lot of people have been commenting on it, including how many are shocked at the fact that possibly we could be having foreigners infiltrate the payroll.
Yes. When we now dig deeper to look at how they do it, We have seen that there are fake index numbers assigned to universities, thousands and tens of thousands of that in there. We have duplication of names. So we pick one classic example where a young man called Abubakar Fusaini, said to be 59 years old, a graduate from the UDS, did a program in independent integrated development. Abubakar Fusaini, that name appears 226 times. Albeit they assign different index numbers, which numbers are fake, by the way, so that his name will be in the system. Eventually, it gets to the processing point when payments are being made. 226,000 Abubakar Fusainis are being paid. Now we see 80-year-olds also being in there, and they are not just in there as data in the system, but they have been posted. And I will come back shortly to the statement that they have released.
Okay, and you're just giving us out because tonight we can't confirm that at least two officials, former officials of the National Service Authority, have opened up about what they know regarding the scandal. Isaac Ofeje, fortunately, is with us, data analyst here at Joy News. And Isaac, let's match that up because they seem to be taking on the fourth estate in very, very harsh words, if you want to call it as such. In fact, terming your reportage as malicious. We'll get into that. Yes. But let's go pointer by pointer because they state the points and how they believe that you wouldn't arrive at the ghost names if you were to do a thorough search.
Well, so Blazer, this a press release signed by Soagh SCBNG. He is the former director of the Director General of the Ghana National Service Authority, and Honorable Mustafa Yusuf, also former executive director of the National Service. Now they actually pegged their statement in 10 bullet points, and that's what we're going to walk through. So the first one has to do with what is actually called the misleading figures that they found. So according to them, the fourth estates claim that the budget figures submitted to Parliament differ from public records is misleading, and that as they excluded additional, according to them, they are saying that the fourth estate excluded additional enrollment cycles for nursing and teacher trainees. And then also on the issue of enrollment cycles, they say that the NSA conducts separate enrollment cycles for nurses and teachers in partnership with their respective councils, which accounts for the perceived discrepancies in the figures. Kweku is here, and I know
what more they've been adding, and just before I bring in Kweku, has also been this payment system which they allude to, talking about the fact that it's being handled by Gibbs. And if you run that system, there's absolutely no way by which you could bypass the system and pay non-existent persons.
I know Kweku has details on the Gibbs, but let me paraphrase what they actually put in that press release. And according to them, payments are made only after personnel undergo rigorous verification, monthly verifications and clearance through the GIPS system, ensuring only eligible individuals receive allowances.
Okay, and I need to point out that, of course, these two individuals we're talking about, one is still a member of Parliament, the former sports minister, that's Mustafa Yusuf, and there's also one person named there, I believe at the end of the statement, pointing out that he is also a previous official of the National Service Authority. Isaac, are we clear on who that is and who we're talking about?
So in fact, two people signed the letter. Soagh SCBNG, he is also the former Director General of the National Service.
And that's why many are taking this statement seriously, because he was the immediate past. I mean, just left of office and is jointly issuing that statement with his predecessor. What do you have to say, first of all, about the possibility that the names you're looking at is exclusive of nursing training postings and the others that they point to?
So we say that, look, this is a public intellectual work that we are engaged in. We as journalists, investigative journalists, only rely on publicly available records, right? Thankfully, they do not challenge the figures that we present, that these are parliamentary figures, which eventually gets to the payroll for payment. They do not challenge the figures that they have put out. They are essentially saying that there could be more names that they put out,
which you haven't
yes,
brought into
they
your
say
perspective.
we have not added to it. Our response is that show us that figure. You see, it does not help for you to come and say you omitted one thing or another. To what extent are they making this argument? That there are no ghost names, or if you pick a specific year where there are 56,000, if you are going to bring the so-called nursing teacher training, it will offset that extra 56,000.
And do you personally have doubts that those numbers could offset the 81,000 plus that we're looking at?
If anyone has doubt, just last week, the Ministry of Finance has looked at the database, the payroll, and have done a head count, and they are reporting 81,000 more. That didn't come from us. That came from the people who pay. Order from the Ministry of Finance to the accountant, general, and that they did that and found 81,000. What is the response of Mr. Sesibe Yabo and Yusuf Mustafa to that? You realize they say nothing to that effect. It is not something that we are peddling. We are saying that if you think the figures we are putting out is understated or overstated, bring your own figures out to the public. Let us interrogate, and then we can begin to see if the claim we are making that there are possibly ghost names in that NSA data, at which point they pay monies are wrong. Then we can begin to have a conversation. It does not help in any way when a member of parliament who's close with powers, to get documents and data comes to come out and say you have understated the figures.
And you agree that with what you're telling us, you're not mindful of the Gibbs argument, are you?
We are very mindful, and I have documents that I'm going to share with you. In fact, possibly if you could read them, I'll be very grateful.
What does it say about the Gibbs system? Because they believe that if you apply that system, technically, it should check all the graft. That's the basis for which you even started the story in the first place.
Yes, let me help you. When we set out to do this investigation, we looked at the entire NSA system, the National Service Authority system, right? And we were actually suspecting gaps as part of the scheme that is happening in there. And so, as journalists, we started making inquiries, seeking to understand the role of GIPS in this whole business, because we know that GIPS is the body that makes the payment. Eventually, the management of GIPS opens the door and say, we know nothing about this. In fact, they present their management to our office to try to explain the whole detail. Essentially, what GIPS is an intermediary body that only makes payment.
No verification, you say?
No. GIPS tells us they have no supervisory or auditory responsibility on the data. People need to understand that GIPS is also the body behind the mobile money system.
The interoperability.
Yes, interoperability system, I mean. So, if you're sending money to Kofi Mensah from MTN to Vodafone, and Kofi Mensah's number ends with 3, but you make the mistake and put in 2, GIPS is just a medium for effecting your payment. And so they do not audit your figure, they do not control. If you are sending 50 and you make a mistake and send 500, they do not change anything, right?
They're just dealing
They are just
largely with the input from the National Service
you
Authority.
give me, I order the payment. Wait, hold on. So we said, if this is your role in the scheme, then GIPS give us the data on the number of people you have been making payments to over the years. We wrote to them in the right to information law requesting that information. I'm going to read a response that
and
GIPS
you want to be snappy about that so we get some responses.
This is December 2.
Yeah, right.
This is a letter from GIPS signed by its CEO, Achi Hesse, right? Addressed to the Director General National Service Authority. Attention, Mr. Soagh Esibe. We write to notify you, and the title is Request for Consent to Disclose Information. To who? To Media Foundation for West Africa. We write to notify you of a request received from Media Foundation for West Africa to disclose the total number of national service personnel paid for each month for the year 2022-2023 and then January to October 2024. A copy of the letter is attached. Based on our business relationship, we hereby seek your consent to disclose the information as requested. Also, in the event that the NSA assents to the release of the requested information, we would be grateful to receive an indemnity for any loss, damage, or liability that GIPS may suffer or incur in the circumstance. Count on your cooperation. Yours faithfully, Achi Hesse, CEO, December 2.
Right.
On that same day, GIPS writes to us, and this letter they copied Suleiman Abraham, the executive director of the Media Foundation, in the name of transparency to say, look, you requested we have requested consent to divulge or to disclose the information to you. On that same day, Gibbs write to us, and let me summarize it here. They say request for information under the Article 1992 Constitution, Right to Information Law. Yeah. Summary. Unfortunately, and say we acknowledge receipt of your request for information under at Right to Information Law. Unfortunately, although Gibbs hold the information requested, we cannot disclose it as it may damage our financial interest. The business of Gibbs is built on the trust that its clients have that their information will be kept confidential. Therefore, assenting to your request may damage our credibility and result in the loss of business. Indeed, the Right to Information Act exempts us from providing this information under the Section 10B. Additionally, the nature of the relationship between the National Service Authority and Gibbs places an obligation on Gibbs to keep information concerning the business relationship confidential.
Okay.
So wait, let me just conclude. Right. So Osei Sibe coming to sign a press statement saying that we failed to do our journalistic duty of visiting Gibbs is utter lies and deception to the public, because Gibbs wrote to them seeking consent to release information to us.
But there's no confirmation as of now in the letters you've pointed out to me that NSS explicitly told Gibbs that they are not to disclose it. That Gibbs is the one reporting.
Enough. I am not saying that, but I'm just saying that
so that's
we did our work.
I get that.
Going
by
to Gibbs
asking
for the information, and Gibbs denies
exactly.
us.
Let's bring in Harry Nanabachi, because he used to be one of the deputy executive directors at the NSA before transitioning into the leadership of the New Patriotic Party. And lawyer Henry Nanabachi, thank you for spending some time with us. Are you able to tell us if indeed there was some influence in there coming in from Osei Sibe, who's issuing the statement now, or perhaps from the former director, who's the former sports minister, either asking Gibbs not to release this information publicly on the basis of confidentiality?
Thank you very much. But please, before I even get there, let me start, because I've been following the conversation. You see, it looks like the gentleman on the other line, he's admitted that for them to have relied on the figures we provide Parliament, because in every year we do 4 major postings. That is how the National Service cycle is. We have the major one, that is the July, August. We post students from public universities, private universities, technical universities. And then we have teacher training colleges. We do that November, December, and then they start in January. And then we have nursing students. In fact, they are even in 2 cohorts. The first one in April, the second one in September. And we do a summation, a total of all the total. And even apart from these 4 major postings, usually after even the main posting, we also get supplementary names from even these universities, and then also they are private registrations. So we do a summation, a total of all of these, and we present it to Parliament for budgetary purposes. So for Media Foundation to have relied on the main publication that comes out for postings, especially regarding the university students, and I have some of the letters here. And please, if he says that he relied on the figures we make public, it is not true. Because in every postings we do, it's either a press release or a press statement. Every. And I have copies of letters before me here. So what they did was that, and I listened to Suleimana very well. They said, okay, for instance, in 2018, National Service on their own published that they posted 85,000 National Service students. And then when we approached Parliament, Parliament also said 135,000. And then they did a subtraction. So 135 minus 85,000. And then they label it as ghost. That is disingenuous. That is recklessness. So it means you are calling the teacher training students you did not include as ghost. You are calling the first cohort of nurses you did not include as ghost, the second as ghost, and all of these things are online. Even your backroom staff can even check posting of National Service teacher trainee. Anytime we post nurses, it is online. We make it public. Anytime we post teachers, we make it public. So you can easily verify. So it is disingenuous for him to say that they went to Parliament, they picked the figure from there, and then they relied on only one figure, only one posting. The figure
in all of this, you seem to be taking on the fourth estate. But if you bring into perspective what it is that the government itself is telling us, they've carried out a head count. Are you doubting that if we are to offset the figures? Are you doubting that if we are to offset the figures? Just hold on for me, sir. Is it that you're doubting that if we offset the figures using the nursing data and the teaching data, that will amount to some 81,000 persons? Is that what you're telling us?
No, I'm coming. Let's go step by step so that they can be exposed well. What I'm saying that the formula they used for the declaration that these are ghost names is flawed. That is the first.
I'm saying that if you're looking at that in just that perspective.
No, don't. You see, you are not helping matters. You see, our names have been soiled. So hold on, please. I'm already establishing the fact that we do a summation of all of these figures. We present it to Parliament. So for them to have extracted a figure from Parliament and then again to have relied only on the National Service postings publications we make for the July-August postings, it's disingenuous, it's recklessness.
Yes, but that's why I'm moving beyond that and asking you a very straight and a direct question. If we're to offset the numbers, because you are aware, perhaps having been one of the officials at the NSA, about the volume that comes out from the nursing training institutions, the teacher training institutions, and all these specialized institutions. I'm asking you quite a direct one. If we offset the numbers out of the 81,000, are you saying that we won't have any further questions to be answered?
Yes, because all those things were projections. And let me tell you, that is even in relation to 2024.
Projections or actual postings, sir?
No. Let me tell you why. 2024, 2025 is still under investigation. But per my practice, this is what I know. Now, July, August last year was a national service year, but it was an election year. So they have posted the main cohorts, that is the university students, the public and the private. Now, by December, they have not posted the teacher training. And this year,
I don't think that negates the question I'm asking you. If we're to do the
I am only trying to establish the fact that yes,
let's go by
those figures, the remaining figures will amount to the teacher trainees, the nursing trainees cohort 1 and 2.
Are you telling us that we have as many as 81,000 nursing training, candidates and also persons from the teacher training institutions that will cover up for the numbers that you're talking about?
The teacher training institutions, the nursing training institutions, cohort 1 and 2, and the private registration. There are private registrations that usually people can. Those who are supposed to do national service, they did not do it that particular year, and then they come to register on their own to do it.
And I'm just wondering, what's your source of this information, sir?
No, that is what I'm saying, that per the practice. That is what it is. That is why I use the tweet, because I can speak for 2028, 2029, because 2028, I just left national service.
The NSS itself, the NSS has released data saying that 91,000 is the head count as of today, as of now that we're speaking.
So the 91,000 would be the major cohort. That would be the public institutions, both private universities.
I'm sorry, the statement does not say there's a segregation of the figures. It says it's head count.
Why? Because by December, they have not even posted the teacher trainees. So they cannot even do a head count of them.
And how about, if you're not admitting that, how about the duplicates and the foreigners? How do you respond to that, sir?
Good. Now, the system is such that we have an entry point and then an exit point. Look, anytime national service opens their system for registration, the system is invaded by scammers and fraudsters. And they try to enter using all manner of information. Fake ID card, fake pictures. They take pictures from everywhere and then they dump it at the entry point. But the system is such that you cannot exit, because by the time you exit, you yourself, you have to go to the region in person, you have to go to the district or the municipality in person and do a biometric verification. So if you go and then you only rely on information placed at the entry point, and you do not find out whether indeed they were successful, and then you rely on it and say that a Kenyan entered, and for that matter, that Kenyan is paid, and then you say that because we have duplication of almost about a person who we duplicate 200 times. So for that matter, that person is paid 200 times. Again, you are creating what I call fear and panic journalism.
Okay, but you've just admitted to us that scammers possibly might have interfered with the system. That's
we
what
have had that issue even from the time we were always engaging BNI and national security. We have had that system. Any time we open,
we need to go.
Try to, in fact, even during our time, teacher trainees, those who are teachers already, when they come for further education, they don't go back to do national service. People try to even impersonate them, use their details for national service.
Right.
We've had all manner
we need to go. Grateful for your time, Henry Nanabuachi.
Let me make this point. For Fourth Estate, for me, frankly, I am going to take them on because, you see, you do not put people's reputation on the line like that. I listened to Suleimana Baima and Corton making categorical statement that because they have gotten a figure from Parliament, they subtracted from the main one, and then those are ghosts, they multiplied by national service allowance, and they said that those monies are found in the pockets of people. I am going to sue them. I will not allow anybody. So now you are just saying that you could not even get access to Gabe's data. That is the only part. And I don't even hear that portion even coming out. I didn't even hear Suleimana say that, you know what, the only point where we can say that those people were paid would be at Gabe's. But unfortunately, we did not get access to Gabe's, so we cannot confirm that they were paid. But here you are. You are churning out all of this misinformation, telling people that they were paid. But you are saying that per your letter, you did not get access to Gabe's. But at least you could have sounded that disclaimer. That the work that we have done, we could not confirm with Gibbs, so we cannot confirm that indeed these were monies that got into people's pocket.
Nanabi,
what kind of journalism is that?
Yeah, this conversation is just starting, and grateful that you've joined us. Of course, subsequently we'll be engaging you. We need to go, but Nanabi has just confirmed to us that he'll be taking you on, in fact, legally.
We'll be glad to respond to that. But let me quickly say that he admitting on record on this radio that indeed they have some names that are not supposed to be on that system is actually admitting to complicity, because the system, and it's painful that he left the scheme somewhere in 2019. We are talking about the subsequent years. Look, the time that they said they have employed the metric app using artificial intelligence security, he was not there. They have announced to the public that right at the gate, people can't get in. Now we have 80 years, 90 years being posted. You can tell me that this is error entry data, but how come they were processed and posted to particular areas? And we have evidence also from the screenshots showing that these people were actually processed and paid.
So
this is he admitting to being admitted to complicity, that indeed they have overseen this and let it happen. Finally, I am saying that let them come up with their own data and let us engage, further on this. Really,
you meet them in court, I believe.
We are very open. I mean, this won't be the first time that people who have tried to hold down independent journalism will run to court. In fact, they injected twice before this story came out.
Okay, we'll see what happens. Kweku Krobia Asante, Programs Manager, Independent Journalism Project at the Media Foundation for West Africa. Grateful for your time, and also to you, Henry Nanabuachi, for your time. Next is Newsnight.
Good evening and welcome to News Night, live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra. In Kumasi, we are on Love 99.5 FM, over 30 affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions. We are on myjoyonline.com. Tonight on News Night, Soagh gives government its first labour tussle as it vows to go ahead with tomorrow's scheduled strike, insisting on the removal of politically exposed registrar of the Births and Deaths Registry hours after government's justification of his appointment.
In this particular instance, the president has acted in accordance with Ghanaian law, and for that reason, there cannot be a reason why Mr. Adomboche should be removed.
Sit down in the house and relax, take some coffee, and then watch Clock TV.
We'll get to hear from government insisting it follow due process enacted within the confines of the law.
This announcement goes to all Soagh members. This announcement goes to all Soagh members. As of today, Soagh has not received any official correspondence on the reassignment of Mr. Paul Adomboche.
Well, so that's the announcement in that pickup van going around at the ministries. I'll tell you all about it. Plus, Ghana Journalists Association was also hitting back at government, saying it missed the opportunity to condemn the increasing spate of attacks on journalists 50 days into the Mahama administration.
Wondering, you spoke on the DDA matter for about 20 minutes, and I was like, could you not have used just 1 minute to condemn the attack?
We have details of that. Plus, government also strongly rebutting claims that NPP buffers ensured smooth debt service and calls narrative a complete falsehood. I have details of that. And then the energy minister and former board chairman of the Electricity Company of Ghana, they are adding their voices to growing calls for an investigation and prosecution of alleged syndicated corruption within ECG. We have details of that controversy which centers on the auctioning of goods imported by the power company, with concerns that the processes was riddled with irregularities and possible misconduct.
A container that cost about $500,000 is imported. ECG is unable to clear that container. Some way, somehow, somebody is able to buy that container at auction for 100,000 cedis, bring it into the open market, and resell it to ECG as $300,000.
So when I assumed office, as a businessman, I didn't see the sense in it.
We have details of that exclusive interview or interaction with my colleague Elton Broby on this. And then Lands Minister paints this tempting picture of Ghana's fight against Galamsey, revealing in Parliament that illegal miners have hijacked 9 forest reserves and blocking Forestry Commission access.
Over 9 out of the 44 forest reserves have been completely taken over by these illegal mining tax with impunity. And the Forestry Commission no longer have access to these forest reserves.
And that's coming up in our fight against Galamsey. We have business.
Government to depend on the Ghana Revenue Authority's new digital tax platform system to aid fresh compliance measures in the 2025 budget.
Let's also take it to Parliament, where MPs have united in condemnation of the death of a Kumasi Asante Kotoko fan in Soagh with a demand for strict enforcement of security protocols at stadia.
That and more in this edition of News Night. You want to join us with your thoughts, your comments is via WhatsApp is 055 1111 997. We're digging now, starting from that government Soagh tussle.
This announcement goes to all Soagh members. This announcement goes to all Soagh members. As of today, Soagh has not received any official correspondence on the reassignment of Mr. Paul Adomboche, who was appointed Registrar of Births and Deaths Registry. Mr. Boche is still at post, performing official duty. The earlier notice of strike action on 20th February 2025 still stands.
So that's sounds from a pickup at one of the ministries in Accra, as civil servants are reminded of a planned strike that's set to begin tomorrow. Well, that's the announcement that's going on. I'm sure if you've been around the ministries area, you would have heard this particular announcement. And Civil and Local Government Staff Association Ghana, Soagh, announced the strike last week in protest against the appointment of Samuel Adomboche as Registrar of the Births and Deaths Registry, arguing that that he's a politically exposed person. Well, they've demanded his immediate removal, warning that failure to do so will result in this particular action that they insist you're going to embark on, because we've been hearing even from government and the justification, but Clocksack insists that they are going to go ahead with the scheduled action. In a statement released on Tuesday, Clocksack raised concerns over Mr. Butche's participation in the births and deaths budget hearing at the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs on Monday. Their view is that it looks like this is a confirmation that he remains in this particular role. Well, the statement signed by Executive Secretary Isaac Bampuado reaffirmed that the strike will proceed as planned unless their demands are met. And this has been getting some form of attention from government. There was a press interaction or a media briefing today by the person in charge of the government spokesperson when it comes to information or communication, I should say. And he mentioned that there's a justification as to why that happened. The due process was followed. Let's listen to Felix Kwachiofusu today, urging Clocksack to reconsider their decision to strike.
And in the specific instance of the births and deaths registry, the law governing the operations of that, the law governing the operations of that entity spells out clearly who should make the appointment. It says the president, and the president has acted in accordance with the 1992 Constitution. Now, Section 2.3 says the president shall, in appointing a person as the registrar, have regard to the relevant academic qualification, experience, and knowledge of that person in civil registration. The registrar shall hold office on the terms and conditions specified in the letter of appointment. So, the criteria for that appointment is clearly spelled out in Section 2 of this Act. Clocksack has not questioned the competence of the current occupant of the position of registrar. They only say that he is politically exposed. But I have just read the law to you, and you as journalists, I'm sure, have capacity to dig up this law and read it for yourself. There is no way that it is said that the position ought to be occupied by a civil servant. And Mr. Adumbotre is a highly experienced official who in the past has served as district chief executive under the Mills administration. And he has many years of public service experience. And he has requisite academic qualifications to hold that particular position. So it is the view of government that whilst we respect our partners in organized labor and seek to dialogue on all relevant matters, in this particular instance, the president has acted in accordance with Ghanaian law. And for that reason, there cannot be a reason why Mr. Adumbotre should be removed, only because he is not a civil servant. There is no provision that says that the position is reserved for civil servants. If it is the view of Clocksack.
Well, that's Felix Kwachiofusu at that press conference with that justification. Issues about competence has come up, and the fact that due process when it comes to the law was followed in the appointment of the birth and death registrar. And so they wonder why Clocksack would want to embark on this action. But the group, however, maintains that he's not the right person for the job. Dr. Isaac Bampuado, Executive Secretary of Clocksack, stated that while they are open to dialogue, their position remains unchanged and they will proceed with the action until their demands are met.
If we get any correspondence indicating that they want to dialogue, why not? We'll put it where they say they want to dialogue. So, but we've not had any correspondence. He quoted, we are not saying the president hasn't got any right to appoint. The act that he referred to is the same thing that is in 195 of the Constitution. All is appointments to public services are done by the president. Nobody is disputing that part. What we are saying, there is also a Supreme Court ruling, and we all know that when it comes to the Constitution, it is the Supreme Court that gives interpretation. And the Supreme Court ruling is saying that once your political coloring becomes overt, step away from the services. If he tells us that with Mr. Butcher's political leaning is not overt, there is justice. But we all know that is an NDC activist. And the Supreme Court is saying that the moment your political coloring becomes overt, stay away from the services. Some of our members have been dismissed. You see the Supreme Court ruling. So this is our position. Well, as it stands, if we get an invitation, of course, yes, for dialogue, and tell that we are not saying this thing, but if this is what the Supreme Court is saying, what we ask our constituents to do is to sit down in their house and relax, take some coffee, and then watch Clock TV.
And that's Dr. Isaac Bampuadu there interacting a while ago with my colleague Michael Ashali there in his initial remarks after that government explanation that was given and the concerns that government had raised in terms of this particular action that you're hoping to embark on tomorrow because of the registrar of the births and death registry, and they insist that he's a politically exposed person and that he ought not be there. But government is raising the issues about competence and due process and the law being followed. We're still working the lines to see if we can bring back Dr. Isaac Bampuadu on this particular issue. What has changed between the time that the government spoke and the time that he also interacted with us? Is the action still on tomorrow? You've been hearing him talk about the fact that their workers should stay at home tomorrow and, do other things other than go to the office. And there's a van also, we're told, that is going round. The ministry is also announcing to all CLOSAC members to stay away from work because of the appointment of the registrar of the births and deaths. Well, we've been hearing from Labour consultant Austin Game, and he says the strike is not the best course of action and is urging the group to reconsider the approach in favour of dialogue.
Yes, workers have a right to go on strike, but it must be based on something. If it's just a question of the president appointing somebody into office, the authorized person by Article 195 of the Constitution is the president, who is entitled to appoint people into various offices. Under the Labour Law, Section 8A of the Labour Act 651, as an employer representing the state, they are the only authorized bodies to appoint people to various offices. The approach is what should be a source of problem for even themselves. The way to go about this is not about going on strike. It's about engagement. It's about dialogue. So I don't know who is advising that they should go on strike to have their matter resolved. So they have to reconsider the concerns that they have.
Well, so that's a Labour consultant, Austin Game there, and that call to CLOSAC. Government also has a call on them to actually put on hold the action for tomorrow, but CLOSAC insists until the removal of the births and deaths register. That action will continue because he's politically exposed, and we'll see how that goes. I'm sure before we end Newsnight, we'll get some reaction to this particular story for you on whether indeed this strike is going to go on as scheduled tomorrow, or there's been an intervention or dialogue has been able to win when it comes to this particular situation. But at that press conference today, the issue about Ghana Journalists Association also came up. I told you yesterday about concerns that the Ghana Journalists GJA president raised at a press conference, asking the president to stick to his promise of protecting journalists who've come under attack. But there was a response to the GJA, and the GJA is fighting off these claims and raising concerns about the increasing spate of attacks on journalists, and it says it is misleading and unfair. The GJA president Albert Jumfo appealed to President John Mahama, like I said, to take a personal interest in cases of attacks on journalists in the country. But addressing these concerns today, Minister in charge of Government Communication, Felix Kwachiofosu, strongly rejected allegations that government is involved in a coordinated effort to attack journalists.
That said, I must also express dismay about the way that narrative was woven. It created a certain misleading impression about government and about President Mahama, which needs to be straightened. All of you are aware that President Mahama is an easygoing, down-to-earth, affable individual who relates very well with all manner of people. He is a member of the Ghana Journalists Association in good standing. So essentially, he is one of you. He is a member of the Inky fraternity. And therefore, he will be the last person to supervise a dispensation where journalists are attacked. But the way that the press conference was addressed and the way that the matters were couched created the impression that some journalists had perhaps said or written something that government was unhappy about, and therefore government was carrying out reprisals against them. But that is completely incorrect. It is not true, and nothing of the sort has happened. When I inquired from the Ghana General Association president, he mentioned instances where at a recent Council of State elections, there was some scuffle and some journalists were roughed up. He also spoke about Erastus Asaidonko, who is reported to have been set upon by some illegal miners when he went there to cover their activities. But these are incidents involving persons who are acting unlawfully. For instance, illegal miners in the first place are breaking the law. So if in an attempt to report the activities, some of them attack a journalist, I'm not sure that you can lay the blame at the doorstep of President Mama or the government. It is an act of criminality.
That's Felix Kwachefusu there. Well, thankfully, we've been hearing from the GJA on this. The Secretary General of GJA, Kofi Yeboah, that's the General Secretary, I should say, says the Minister missed a good opportunity to show government's commitment to ensuring the safety of journalists.
We do not know of any laid down approach or channel to follow. And the way we have been operating, when we have concerns, and we may do a press conference, we may issue a press statement, we may engage the stakeholders involved. So there are so many approaches. On this occasion, we had decided to hold a press conference to address our issues. I don't think there are any right or wrong issues here. And just the same way, the Honorable Minister also uses the press conference approach to address the CLOSAC issue, the GDA issue, and some other issues. Our interest is that we are finding solutions to the concerns we have. And listening to the Honorable Minister, I think he totally missed the point. So he may have been seized by some other report, but if he was minded to go to the original statement we issued, there was nowhere we had drawn the government into it or suggested that the government was behind the attack. We had stated fact that within 50 days of this administration, there have been 7 attacks. That is a statement of fact. The Honorable Minister did not contest that fact, or he did not give alternatives to the fact we had put across. And if you were to disaggregate that, it's only 1 attack every week, and that is quite high. And that is where our concern is coming from. And when I was listening to the Honorable, I was wondering, you spoke on the DDA matter for about 20 minutes, and I was like, could you not have used just 1 minute to condemn the attack and call on people, stakeholders, not to go on that tangent?
That's the position of the General Secretary of the Ghana Journalists Association, Kofi Yeboah there. An immediate reaction to the government Minister in charge of government communication, Felix Kwachefusu. So I bet I will get this designation right the next time I come on air on this matter. But well, he's been addressing the issues about the economy also today. And of course, he's dismissed claims by the previous NPP administration that they established debt buffers to facilitate the 4th DDEP coupon payment. Well, since that announcement or that statement that they actually are paying these coupons, there have been a lot of reactions to this. We've been hearing from the former finance minister, Mohamed Amin Adam, at least in his Facebook post. He had asserted that the Akufo-Addo government had built reserves in the debt service reserve accounts to support upcoming debt obligations, including the recently honored 4th coupon payment. But the minister, Felix Kwachefusu, in that statement today, labelled the claim as false.
We have had some rebuttals from the MPP, whose officials have claimed that we have been able to do that as a government only because they left some buffers, and that it is not because of any specific intervention from President Mahama. I wish to place on record that this narrative is untrue. For officials of the former government to be able to say that these payments and honoring of these obligations have been the outcome of work that they did, they need to point specifically where those buffers were located. Because in order to be able to pay the money, you need to find it and lodge it somewhere. That is what you call a buffer, pending payment at a given date. Now,
Well, Kofi, our lead data research analyst, joins me in studio on this. He's been working the line to reach the former Finance Minister, Mohamed Amin Adam, on this. Immediately, he's unable to react to this. But, Kofi, you've been doing some digging, and we need some education in this regard. First, then, let's understand what this debt service reserve account or sinking fund is actually about.
Well, so the debt service reserve account is an account that is supposed to be set up by this is being set up by the government of Ghana for debt servicing obligations. And we understand that this account is in twofold. So you have the dollar component and the CD component. So the dollar component definitely for settling debt at the external level, and when you come to the CD account for DDEP, payment. And according to Felix, this is the update he gave today. He says that if you look at the dollar account as of October 22nd October 2024, the balance in that account was $64,387. $64,387. And he says that, this was the account, but on the 31st of January 2025, a transfer of 915,182 closely, we can say that $96.9 million was actually transferred into the account on the 31st of January 2025. That was when President Mahama had resumed office. Now, the bone of contention here is a CD account, because this is what's supposed to be used for the settlement of the DDP. Now, if you go into the CD account, which the former finance minister claimed that they had left enough buffers in there, according to Felix, the balance when they took over as of 2nd January was 155.4 million Ghana cedis. Now, they say that they restocked that balance, making it more than 15 billion, and they're not paying 6 billion, which means that it will leave a balance of now 9.3 billion Ghana cedis in there as a buffer. But we've been doing some checks. From the sinking fund. What we understanding, based on the data we have from the finance ministry, is that this is not a fund that has been left dried. Okay. So there's actually money in the sinking fund.
Not sinking. The sinking fund is not
it's not sinking.
Okay.
So what we are learning is that in 2024, this is data from the finance ministry, the finance ministry's own fiscal data that they have actually published. So if you go to their website, you will see that in 2024, the target was that by the end of the year, they should get some 241 million Ghana cedis in the sinking fund. Okay. But what we are learning is that as of the second quarter, July 2024, they had gone above this target and raised a total of, I think it was a total of 1.1 billion Ghana cedis. So the target was 241 million, but they had put 1.1 billion cedis in the sinking fund. So what we are learning is that this is not an account that has been left dry, but the data we are getting is that as of the first half of last year, you had a significant component or significant amount of 1.1 billion sitting in that account. And we also understand that in August, they went ahead to make a payment of 6 billion Ghana cedis to DDEP or as DDEP coupons. Okay. And what we are learning is that this debt servicing account doesn't just rely on sinking fund. They pick from different places, put together for the debt servicing. So, we need more clarification from both the former finance minister and the current, government in terms of how this account is being treated and what is currently in that account at the moment, Emefa.
Okay, well, all these figures, I'm a bit dazed at this point. I was hoping we could go for a quick break, but really, let's turn our attention to ECG at this point, because Kofi is giving me a lot of figures. None of it is coming into my pocket or into my account, but we'll manage. The Energy Minister, John Jinapor, and the former board chairman of the Electricity Company of Ghana, Alexander Afenyomarking, have joined calls for a thorough investigation and prosecution of individuals behind what they describe as syndicated corruption at the power company, that's ECG, over the auction of goods imported by the company. In one instance, essential equipment valued at $500,000 was auctioned for 100,000 cedis, or should I say $6,000 equivalent, and later resold to ECG for $300,000. Let me say that again. The equipment was valued at $500,000. was auctioned for 100,000 cedis or $6,000, and then later it was resold back to ECG for $300,000. Well, the energy minister considers this as a fraud and must be punished.
You go to their warehouse, a lot of the equipment are at the mercy of the weather. I just checked from the port, and the security report I'm getting is that a container that cost about $500,000 is imported. ECG is unable to clear that container. Some way, somehow, somebody is able to buy that container at auction for 100,000 cedis, bring it into the open market, and resell it to ECG as $300,000. It will stop. And I mean, it will stop. Whatever it takes to stop that, no matter how unpopular that might be, we have to.
So that's the energy minister, John Jinapo, there on this. Well, the minority leader, Alexander Penyomaki, who served as board chairman of ECG between 2023 and 2024, says he raised concerns about the practice, but were largely ignored. He spoke to my colleague Elton Brobe on The Pulse.
When I became the chair, I was told of that story. And in fact, I had a problem with ECG having to import for and still pay duty. So one of the things I did as a board chair was to get the board to issue a new directive to the effect that any supplier who imported for ECG had to clear and deliver to our warehouse. That was the first intervention I made. So I stopped that thing upon assumption of office as chair.
So are you surprised that?
No, I'm not surprised because I know we had a lot of challenges. We had a lot of containers at the port. So what Jinapo said was right. Indeed, there were a lot of containers at the port that we had not paid for their
clearance,
their duty. So when I assumed office, as a businessman, I didn't see the sense in it. You get a contract, you only drop the bill of lading and start pursuing your money, and then sometimes you are even paying the supplier and the goods have not been cleared. And it's true, people take advantage of the system where they go, the customs guys will auction, and when they auction, they go and buy it, and then somebody may have an order, and then they sell the same thing back to ECG. It doesn't make sense.
Absolutely.
It's one of
somebody must be held responsible.
It's one of the things that we have to look at. So I'm happy the minister is taking a step. When I was in office as board chair, I got the board to take a decision on that, and there was a new policy. And if you go there, you can find for yourself that there should be no contract that will terminate at the port. The person should supply the goods to our warehouse.
That's the minority leader, Alexander Fenyomaki there. He was a former board chair of the Electricity Company of Ghana. You heard the energy minister also raise concerns, and it does appear that there's a suspicion of some syndicates there engaging in these corrupt practices. Well, there have been talks about privatizing ECG, and you've heard the position of the Public Utilities Workers Union, PU, on this. They have key concerns. They're strongly opposed to government's plan to introduce private sector participation in the Electricity Company of Ghana, arguing that privatization will not address the company's challenges. Well, thankfully, the General Secretary for PU, Timothy Nyame, joins us on the line. Mr. Nyame, we are grateful for your time here on Newsnight. But hearing all the things that we are hearing that's happening, especially at ECG, what really is your justification for being against private participation?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your listening. So our message is simple. Electricity Company of Ghana is a public entity which is to provide a specific service. So it is not necessarily a profit-making entity. So measures that can be put in place to ensure that it does or it conducts its business in that manner is what we are all calling for. So the issues that the minister is raising are not things that the leadership of the union are not aware of.
You are aware of them?
We are aware of them.
And what exactly has been your intervention? I'm curious.
Yes, we have had engagement with management over these issues. I could hear Honorable Apawu talking about the procurement of goods, and then the directive that he gave when it comes to procurement of goods going forward. There were issues that we raised as a suggestion to management that goods procured should be delivered to the doorstep of the customer and not to remain at the port, so that we should complete the transaction when items are delivered to the warehouse of the Electricity Company of Ghana. Because we came to realize that these containers were kept at the port, also incurring demurrage, which is another cost to the company. So there are other issues that have been enumerated in our document. If you study our document, we have highlighted issues that the government should handle to make sure that the company comes back on track, that it will serve the public interest when those issues are resolved.
Well, but the key distinction that at least this government gives is that they are looking for private sector participation and not necessarily just privatizing ECG. For you, you consider both the same? There are no difference, you say?
Yes, as we said in our document, we have not seen any dichotomy between private sector participation and privatization over the years. And down the memory lane, let's see private sector participation in a utility company like Ghana Water Company. What was the result? Privatization also in the telcos. What was the result? So we have seen them and made them as one and the same. So they are only having the disguised name, one private sector participation or privatization. That's why we are calling on the government that they should put in measures and internal control mechanisms in place, and also free management hand in their mode of operation. So you appoint a managing director and give him a KPI to operate, the fault of which he must be sanctioned. So that you cascade down. Also, issues, certain things that are needed as agents, for instance, meters, procurement of meters that are needed to measure the quantity, the power that is consumed by customers should be easily provided. So these are some of the things that we are asking.
Okay,
so
and you are scheduled to meet the minister on this document that you've been making reference to. What exactly has been the reception to this document, and has government rescinded that decision, or it remains the same? What exactly has been the reception?
So to be very, the reception was very, very cordial. Don't forget, the minister set up a committee, and we met the leadership of the committee. The chairman was present, so we highlighted the issues, and we brought to them the attention and said that the reason why there should be no need for privatization or private sector participation, but they should look at issues that we have listed. So if you go to the conclusion,
so what assurance did they give? What assurance did they give you?
In fact, there's more room for further engagement. This was the assurance they gave. That in fact they have informed, they have been consulted, the committee has been consulted that to consult all broad stakeholders, and they'll come back to rest or to dialogue on issues going forward.
Okay, we are grateful. That's Timothy Nyame, is the General Secretary for the Public Utilities Workers Union there. And it's time. Let's bring in George. Of course, when we are talking about ECG, we are getting into the realms of business. And George, your face ready with the latest from that world. George?
Well, Emefa coming up, Bank of Ghana begins audit of remittance activities for the fourth quarter of last year as it charges all market players to fully comply with the process, and government to depend on Ghana Revenue Authority's new digital tax platform to aid fresh compliance measures set to be announced in the 2025 budget. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all your office essentials, Synthestanks and Pepsodent Herbal and Charcoal.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kindle Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom, and my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHS, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
Brush your teeth every day and night, up and down and all around, brush the feeling bright. Brush your teeth, brush with mom and dad, underneath and in between, brush the germs away.
Pepsodent, cavity protection
For 10 times stronger teeth.
This advert is FDA approved.
Hey, do you know sir? And you stay soft concentrate fabric softener. I was such it move. Just send it say be here my tina wache. New yanit na wache. No be a baby some was some demoni ni na say. Do you know say? Fair quiet yesim biara association Ontario. Uses stay soft and new yanit na wache. Nani boss to tap from cra. A fabric softener. And ye near say sir. Choose to stay soft. No who so say no. FDID a garden crack to yatu.
You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, the Bank of Ghana has announced that it has started audit remittance activities from the 1st of October last year to December 2024. Now, this was contained in an official notice released by the Central Bank today. According to the Bank of Ghana, the objective of this audit is to assess the remittance process and also provide recommendations to strengthen the existing regulatory framework. In addition, the audit will evaluate compliance with all the applicable regulations, including the Foreign Exchange Act of 2006. The Bank of Ghana added that all market participants are reminded that they are obliged to comply fully with this exercise by the Bank of Ghana. To other stories now, government has revealed that it will depend on the new digital tax platform by the Ghana Revenue Authority to aid compliance measures set to be introduced in the 2025 budget. There is more in this report.
The Integrated Tax Application and Preparation System is a new digital tax platform rolled out by the Ghana Revenue Authority to help simplify the tax administration process in the country. The authority has maintained that this new platform simplifies income tax, value-added tax, and customers' costs for tax payment. The Ghana Revenue Authority also believes that this new system will allow for real-time processing, automated tax computation, and document pre-filing. Government sources have told Joy Business that this system will support its plans to be heavy on compliance in the coming month to make up the revenue loss when it goes ahead to remove the e-levy, betting tax, COVID-19 levy, and other taxes that it announced in its manifesto. We also understand that based on the work that the Ghana Revenue Authority is doing, concerns about challenges with collections should also be addressed even before the end of this year. The Ghana Revenue Authority has also adopted artificial intelligence in their tax administration structures. This has also helped them in establishing a data analytics center that will do predictive tax revenue forecasting as well as tax evasion. The authority maintains that some of these measures has also resulted in 15% increase in VAT collections. Government sees all these measures as an indication to support compliance and also deal with low revenue mobilization.
And that is a Business Desk report. Now let's still stay on tax issues because businesses have welcomed moves by government to be heavy on tax compliance to make up for the revenue shortfalls in the coming months. Now it follows revelations that government will press ahead by removing some taxes like the COVID-19 in the 2025 budget. Let's hear from President of the Ghana Union of Trade Association, Joseph Obeng, who says this move needs to be supported.
So the most important thing is what government is going to do. We are looking at the significance of this. It's very important that we also make these taxes very affordable. When we say that we are reducing, it means that we are reducing and making it simplified and affordable so that compliance does not become a difficulty for us at all.
The Greater Accra Regional President of the Association of Ghana Industries, Soagh, believes that this is actually long overdue.
If you follow the campaign that had just ended before the elections, you realize that all the political parties were very heavy in promising about tax compliance. In fact, to the extent that all the political parties campaigned heavily on cancelling of taxation, e-levying and all of that, was only natural to expect that they would like to expand compliance. For us in industry, we're very excited about that, and we would continue to support government to do that. But it's important to note that the issue of compliance has always been on the table. AGI have had concerns to complain about how compliance is being implemented and achieved. So, for example, the tax authorities continue to focus on the very few companies that will always pay the tax.
Soagh is the Greater Accra Regional President of the Association of Ghana Industries. The Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies Ghana says it will be petitioning government over concerns of unfair pricing of petroleum products. According to the Chamber, this has been a setback for the industry as many investors are forced to compete unfairly on other markets. Chief Executive of the Chamber, Dr. Risnopon, discloses to Joy Business at the closing session of the Downstream Dialogue program in Accra today.
And at the end of the day, we want sanity in the industry. We want to have a fair pricing regime where we have an organic industry where the industry players will determine what price. Because at the end of the day, we are deregulated. Why do I need to bypass Konongo from Tema to Kumasi and another BRV go to Kumasi and bring the same product to Konongo? I mean, that's a double counting. And I'm asking this question. If today Boss refuses to take fuel from Tema to Kumasi and my members, the oil marketing companies, do so from Tema to Kumasi and to the north, what happens to the primary distribution margin that is charged at the depot? Regardless of Boss not doing its job, we still charge regardless. So I believe it's high time we review holistically the zonalization.
Dr. Risnopon is the Chief Executive of the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies. Let's turn our attention to the stock market. And if you're holding the shares of MTN Ghana, each share was up by 9 pesos to close at 2 Ghana cedis 90 pesos. That of Goa was also up by a peso to close at 1 cedi 60 pesos. Total was actually up by 21 pesos to close at 13 Ghana cedis 62 pesos. About 3 stocks going up on the market today. And if you look at, you track your investment on the market, is up by more than 12% if you had invested from the beginning of this year. Some interesting developments there for those who might be interested on the Ghana Stock Exchange when it comes to investment. And it's good time to do sports.
Yeah, George. Well, the members of parliament have been united in their condemnation of violent scenes recorded at the Insontre during a match between Kumasi Asante Kotoko and Insontreman. The violence did lead to the death of one fan, which has led to the suspension of the local league. Delivering a statement on the floor of parliament, MP for Brekum West Dixon Dia called for the enhancement of security at stadiums and strict enforcement of disciplinary actions.
I urge Ghana Football Association and the National Sports Authority to put in place stringent measures and security and safety measures to prevent such occurrences in future. These include enhanced security at stadiums, strict enforcement of disciplinary actions against violent conduct, and also intensified public education on sportsmanship. Mr. Speaker, in our beautiful game of football, there are only 3 results. Either you win, you lose, or you draw.
Well, for his part, Member of Parliament for Bolga Central, Isaac Adongo, delivered a scathing criticism of the Ghana Football Association and its management of football in the country.
Mr. Speaker, I was very sad to hear my colleague mention that they were struggling to get very simple first aid. You don't have ambulances. You have no business playing football in such a field. That is a death trap. But we go there and nothing happens, so we think that is a football field. No. What was the police situation at the football field? Where were the police? What was the requirement of security that was supposed to be upheld in the stadium? In this particular instance, the information we have is that this young man had been threatened prior to the match, and that the security agencies should have known that what happened to the young man could happen. Parks, they are just like we're doing in our area, where you just call neighbors across the road and you are playing football. That is what is happening. And we cannot be doing that for people to die needlessly.
Member of Parliament for Bolga Central, Isaac Andogun there. Well, coming up tonight is a big Champions League game between Real Madrid and Manchester City. What said Manchester United? What are they doing there in the Europa League? It's a big one, and of course, Real Madrid are leading that tie by 3-2. Man City will need to win at least by some 2-goal margin to be able to stand a chance of making it to the round of 16. But Pep Guardiola says in Steam, all they need to do is to be perfect and courageous.
Yeah, you have to make an almost perfect game. Obviously, the result is not good. Always we came with a more or less good result, but the result is not the perfect situation. We have to attack, we have to score goals. This is the idea. Still, we have a lot to play to qualify for the Champions League next season. Of course, Europe right now, still we are there. FA Cup, the World Cup, and the end of the season we take the decision.
Well, not sure where you stand. Not sure if you're a fan of Pep.
Pep
where do you stand?
All the way.
Pep really? You're rooting for them to win. Madrid. Soon,
we just have to be perfect.
Soon, no.
Let's see. I'll meet you tomorrow. Yeah.
We'll see
how it goes. Thank you very much. And that's Musbah with the latest from the world of sports. I have some of your messages that I'll go through. Then I can take you to Parliament, and we kick off our fight against illegal mining. And Senna says the NDC government must work hard to prosecute corrupt NPP officials. Well, he says involved in ECG scandal. And Nane Kuyamwa Boating, Ablikuma Central, says it is very unfortunate for the court to convict Honorable NST Yaukumi for contempt. I strongly believe he will be cleared of the charge and sets him free. Well, members of Parliament have been reacting to that as well. And we have Amos from Ashaiman says that please, the Minister for Government Communications only sought to clarify the narrative communicated by the GJA president, whose position only sought to create an impression that the perpetrators of those attacks are in a way connected to the government of the day. Yao Achimota says hypocrisy and double standard will kill us all in this country. Why he says so, he did not say. Sami Nkumasi says it is always better for Henry Nanabuachi not to speak on issues when he has no in-depth knowledge on whatever it's at stake. He has rather muddied the waters with his ranting without giving any impeccable figures to debunk that there was no ghost names on the NSSP list. And that's a story that we tackled extensively on Top Story. Now, Musa Batwaina Swasi says the NSS corruption scandal is alarming, with millions lost through ghost names, even involving Kenyan nationals. He goes on and adds the hashtag Newsnight. You can also do same. Now, Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofibwa, has painted a very disturbing picture of Ghana's fight against Galamsey, revealing in Parliament that illegal miners have hijacked 9, not 1, not 2, not 3, 9 forest reserves, with the Forestry Commission blocked from accessing it. Well, according to the minister, Galamsey continues to wreak severe havoc on Ghana's lands, but insisted the new government will not relent in the fight against illegal mining.
Ghana is currently faced with an unprecedented threat to our forest resources and water bodies, due largely to to illegal small-scale mining activities. This situation has assumed crisis proportions with dire national security and public health consequences that require immediate attention. Honourable Speaker, it will interest you to note that out of the 288 forest reserves that I have mentioned, a whopping 44 of these forest reserves are under serious attack by.
Well, my colleague, Parliamentary Affairs Correspondent Kweku Asante, sat through proceedings and heard the minister paint that gloomy picture, I should say. And he joins us on the line with more on this. So, Kweku, the minister also explains the current situation with water bodies. It's not just forest reserves, which have received a fair share of destruction. Tell us more.
Well, Emefa, in fact, you would, from the various reporting that we've done with the Rascals, Asari Donko, and our other colleagues on Galamsey, we know that one of the hardest hit environmental issues having to do with Galamsey is water. The minister talks about the poison that have now been introduced into Ghana's water bodies and explains that in Parliament.
Speaker, the impact of illegal mining on our water bodies, which is the second phase, is critical and equally alarming. Among the three water basin systems in Ghana, which is the Volta, Southwestern, and the Coastal Western Basin systems, the Southwestern Basin system is most impacted. The rivers that form the Southwestern basins are the Ankobra, the Pra, which is made out of Fame, Brim, and Odan, and the Tano and Bia. According to the Ghana Water Company, the normal turbidity levels for water under treatment should not exceed 500 NTU.
But currently, what we have is more than that NTU that we're supposed to have. But Kweku, there were a lot of contributions on the floor when it comes to this. But finally, though, we know someone is asking for the installation of CCTV cameras alongside all Ghana's river bodies. Really? Hello, Kweku. Okay, that's a peer that I can hear my colleague. But listen to that suggestion in Parliament.
I believe that henceforth, when they get the recommendation, you should insist that should be the committee or the body issuing these licenses. And then Accra can then top it up. Because if we don't do that, there's not going to be any community ownership. And even the fight itself also has to be owned by the community and the district. Otherwise, we are going to have a big challenge in fighting it. Because that has been our method of fighting everything from Accra. In fact, by the time soldiers even move into the district, I mean, the Galamseyers, they have been informed and they ran away. In fact, when we were fighting it in those days, when we go in the morning, they are not there. In the afternoon, they are not there. When you go back the next morning, you realize that they are come to do operations in the night. And this is very difficult for our agencies to be able to stop them. Going forward, he has also made mention of the river gas. And I believe that is a good thing. In fact, we trained a lot of river gas. We only deployed them for a few periods because of morality issues. Because along the line, what we realized was that those fighting Galamsey, from the police to the army to immigration, along the line, it became a different story altogether. So I believe that now that we have digitalization, I'm concluding, Mr. Speaker. Now that we have digitalization, it is important if we can do and implement and invest in solar CCTV cameras along the rivers.
Okay, so that's Kwabena Mensah Okyere the MP for Takrady, and that's the suggestion when it comes to the fight against Galamsey after the minister gave painted a picture of that situation when it comes to our fight against illegal mining. But it brings me to our climate focus for today, and the Forestry Research Institute of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, in partnership with the Forestry Commission, we know has organized a one-day workshop for stakeholders in the Bono region on sustainable small-scale woodlot management for bioenergy and rural livelihood improvement. Well, my colleague Anas Sabit was at that workshop. He brings us climate focus.
Wood fuel, primarily charcoal and firewood, has over the years been the main source of energy for cooking for 2/3 of households in sub-Saharan Africa and is a critical element in maintaining food security. With millions of households depending on wood fuel production to make a living, a heavy reliance on it makes environment and health concerns, and with many governments focusing on bans and restrictions of the commodity, there is a need for policy makers as well as researchers to undertake demand-driven research. As a result, the Forestry Research Institute of Ghana under the CSIR is implementing a project to enhance sustainable woodlot management for bioenergy production in Ghana. Professor Emmanuel Punifrimpong is a professor of forest health and a deputy director at the institute.
It's clear that the project is going to go a long way to support sustainability of the charcoal business, sustainability of woodlot establishment, for us to achieve the objective for which the funds has been given to us.
Professor Opuni-Frimpong further emphasized that the project, aside its social and economic benefits, will go a long way in helping the country's agenda of climate change mitigation, as it encourages people to plant trees for charcoal production instead of depleting the forest for that same purpose.
If people accept this principle of rather planting trees to burn charcoal instead of going to the forest reserves and the already forest cover to deplete it more, then it's going to help Ghana's agenda of contributing to climate change mitigation and reducing stress that climate change is putting on the total environment.
Some of the participants underscored the relevance of the engagement and called for more engagements to help minimize the indiscriminate felling of trees for charcoal production.
Again, from this project, we need to be conscious of planting trees and protecting them.
It should be a collaboration project, like between government and I know the government alone cannot take it up. So NGOs should help, whilst the government also holds another part.
Anna Sabit, Joy News.
Climate Focus is brought to you by Joy News in partnership with Youth Bridge Foundation, bridging gaps for positive youth development, and the Climate Development Knowledge Network.
And that's how we end today's edition of News Night. And Akafa is in the studios. It's time for Strong and Sassy.
Yes.
What are we talking about?
So we're talking
tonight?
about how to know if he or she is the one.
Hey,
I know it's
you have a thermometer. You have something that you use to gauge.
Well, so the thing is, we know that there's no formula and all of that, but we want our guests that are joining in to share their opinions and thoughts on that, and also
people go all out.
You know, okay. yeah. So we'll get some pointers to share with our listeners.
I have somebody I want to check on, so I'll be listening for
please
all
do.
Whether he's the one or you
not. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be doing same myself. So yeah. So
let's do it together. You want to stay with Akofa and the team? They're coming up next with Strong and Sassy. Please stay. I am Emefa Apawu. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com.